Kanse. I'm Krisanachkate. Welcome to a special edition of APTN National News as our staff is away for part of the week. Michif language revitalization just got a $15.3 million boost last January from the federal government. The funding is part of efforts to support the Federal Indigenous Languages Act and will be distributed by the Manitoba Métis Federation. Sarah Bettens has more.
We have approximately less than 1,000 Michif speakers in the province, and with the help of the federal government, we're able to give Michif language a chance to survive and to prosper.
On Thursday, Canadian Heritage unveiled $15.3 million in funding to the Manitoba Métis Federation over 5 years to help revitalize the Michif language. Talib Noor Mohammed, the parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Canadian Heritage, was in Winnipeg to share the news.
It's critical to ensuring that the Métis Nation here and the Manitoba Métis Federation are able to direct, to design, and to deliver the support for Michif language in a way that suits the people.
Andrew Carrier is the MMF's Minister of French and Michif Language Protection. He says the 5-year funding commitment will allow the MMF to support long-term programming.
There has been a lot of starts, or sometimes false starts, and completions, but we're never able to provide a full gamut of services because of the funding agreements. But with this 5-year plan, we have a good foundation that we're able to move forward in the preservation and promotion of Michif languages.
From Michif French spoken in communities like Saint Laurent to Southern Michif, which blends French and Cree, there are several dialects of the language. Noor Mohammed says there's been a 45% increase in the number of people who can carry a conversation in Michif over the past few years.
That shows that these types of efforts, these types of initiatives have a profound impact.
Carrier says the MMF is exploring numerous Michif language projects, including classes, books, and immersion programs.
Introducing the Michif language at a very early age through our own early learning childcare centers. And so we're working with the childcare directors as to storybooks in Michif.
At the MMF's 2024 Annual General Assembly in October, MMF Human Resources Minister Anita Campbell said the Federation is developing an AI model to help revitalize Michif. Carrier said that the project is still in the works. He says the MMF also hopes to unite elders and youth through language programming.
So we bring them together and they learn from each other, and we hope to inspire further learning opportunities through these gatherings.
The MMF is now accepting requests for proposals through its website from individuals and communities interested in developing Michif programming. Sarah Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
First Nations newspaper Indian Times closed their doors in Akwesasne last December after decades in production, citing lack of funds from ad revenue. As reporter Savannah Craig shows us, many Indigenous media are experiencing barriers from funding to getting their stories out there.
Indigenous media is in crisis. After 59 years in operation, Inuvik-based newspaper, the Inuvik Drum, shuttered its doors. Just weeks before, Akwesasne-based paper, Indian Time, ended operations after more than 40 years.
Indian Time opened up in 1983, so that was quite a long run. But the last few years, it was difficult to compete with online media.
Marjorie Skitters was the editor of Indian Time. She says a big void in news coverage remains at a pivotal time. As Akwesasne runs through the borders of both Canada and the United States, concern is growing as some of U.S. President Donald Trump's recent anti-immigration roundups have targeted members of the Navajo Nation.
Now there's a vacuum. There's no media for this community, and there's no media for any Native community that has lost their newspaper.
Both Indian Time and Inuvik Drum closed due to lack of ad revenue. Even an established news outlet like The Nation is experiencing issues.
We were just starting to get advertising from Facebook and that, and we were starting to use it in certain ways and expand on it, and all of a sudden there's no access.
Will Nichols runs The Nation, a news magazine serving Quebec's Cree communities. He says the meta ban has hindered their relationship across Instagram and Facebook. Nichols says The Nation also uses grants from the government, but he says these grants are very limited for Indigenous media.
Even after 35 years, I'm only making $40,000 a year, and we really can't afford to pay me any more than that.
Steve Bonspiel runs Gonawage's newspaper, The Eastern Door.
It all depends on how it was structured.
He says the paper gets some money from grants, but it is limited.
If we were only doing ad sales and only circulation, we'd be in trouble.
Out of the fire of the Oka crisis, or known to locals as the Siege of Gonasadage, The Eastern Door was born in 1992. Bonspiel says the paper amplified Indigenous voices and perspectives in the aftermath of the crisis, during a time where Indigenous voices were invisible in the media.
Other than that, all my other stories are in.
While the Eastern Door remains strong, there's always decisions about cutting costs.
Our print bill is so high. I'm like, there's going to come a time where we're like, do we cut this out? Can we make it work online?
Even outside of times of crisis, Indigenous-run media is still necessary.
It's important for the community to see themselves in the paper and in any media. That's the only way you can understand who you're writing about, who you're covering, the stories you're covering, why the trauma exists, why certain people won't look you in the eye and why others will talk your ear off for an hour, without asking one question. So all of that is understanding our communities.
Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.
Legendary actor and musician Gary Farmer, originally from the Mohawk community of Six Nations, is currently in Vancouver shooting a TV series, and our APTN's Tina House had a chance to catch up with him recently. Here's that interview.
Thank you. We are so excited to have Gary Farmer join us today. Gary Farmer, the legendary actor, musician. Really good to see you, and welcome back to Vancouver.
Thanks so much, Tina. It's a pleasure to be here out at the beach. It's nice.
It is nice, Ambleside Beach. Gary, what brings you back to the city?
I've been working this show called Resident Alien for NBC Universal. This is our 4th season, and I play Dan 12 Trees. There's a Ute community within the show, and it's a resident alien. There's an alien who comes to Earth, and he learns how to be human by watching Law and Order. It's a pretty funny show. It's got a great sense of humor.
That's amazing. Now, this weekend you have a very special showcase coming up. Can you tell me what's happening?
Well, I ended up in my home community for 3 months, Six Nations, and I've been really close to Derek. We've been partners on band stuff and touring, and he come down we toured the States a lot, and then we toured Canada a couple of years ago. And we write music together, and he helps me produce albums for myself and stuff. So I purchased a car, actually, the newest car I've ever bought, back home on a res. Somebody wanted to scale up to a big truck, and I bought this car, and they're driving it out with Lacey Hill. And we decided they're going to do a little tour across the country. And I said, well, I'll try to work on something for Vancouver. And we ended up getting the Fire Hall complex, the Arts Complex, and we're really happy with that venue. And they're closing the show, a women's view of Confederation. I forget, Women of the Fur Trade, which is a big hit show. And I was really impressed by the performance myself. And then I knew the artistic director because I worked a lot in Victoria Theatre too. And our manager for the Victoria Theatre is doing the lighting for this theatre company. So it was really just meant to happen, I guess. And so we're doing, and then Murray's joining us, of course, an old friend from our community. And then Pure Fay, who's also Tuscarora from the Carolinas, is also Six Nations, and she's joining us in the show too. So.
Wow, incredible. So Gary Farmer, Derek Miller, Lacey Hill, Murray Porter, and Pura Fay. I mean, what a night. I mean, that's going to be incredible. Tell me a little bit about the timing and all that stuff. What time does the show kick off?
Yeah, it starts after they close the show. They do a matinee at 3 and they wrap, and they're going to strike the set, which isn't much of a set, and then we go on at 8. So we'll be for what, 2.5 hours, 3 hours probably. We're going to end up in a big jam. Shakti Hayes and Richard Brown on bass and drums are joining us too, some local celebrities themselves.
Wow, just a night of incredible rock and roll and some beautiful Indigenous talent getting together.
Yeah,
amazing.
It's really special. It just worked out. It's nice when that happens. Yeah.
It's really awesome. Thank you so much. Nice to see you, Gary, and really good to see you back here in Vancouver.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to you in studio.
We want to hear from you about that story or any other story that you saw on APTN National News. Here's how to continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, you can go to www.aptnnews.ca. And you can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. We have more stories when we come back after these messages. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's been 60 years since a group of students set forth on a historic trip to highlight racial injustice in Australia. And now a new university scholarship has been launched honoring their legacy. Freedom Riders recently returned to the University of Sydney this week, where their famous bus trip around regional New South Wales started. Inspired by protests against racial segregation in the United States, they spent 15 days protesting against injustice. NITV's Felicity Ogilvie reports.
Freedom Riders returning to the University of Sydney, 60 years to the day since their bus arrived back from their now legendary 15-day road trip across regional New South Wales.
We all knew what was really happening, segregation, outright racism in terms of policies in town, you know.
Today, the university announced a Freedom Ride scholarship for Indigenous students.
We know that students need and really thrive when they're supported through scholarships and also through education support at places like the University of Sydney.
One of the biggest pushes from the Freedom Ride too was to give people education and rights to have equal opportunities. So I think that's amazing. That's really going to escalate opportunities for regional and Aboriginal students.
The family of late Aranda Kalkadoon man Charles Perkins also honoured. The organiser of the Freedom Ride was also the first Aboriginal man to graduate university in Australia. The Freedom Ride is a key achievement of many of the students.
I was Chief of Staff to Prime Minister Whitlam. I was recently Chief Justice of New South Wales. I've done a lot of other things. And this is one of the things I'm really proud of. It really changed things for people that I identified with in terms of people who had been suppressed.
The risks the Freedom Riders took led to big changes in country towns like Walgett. Locals from Walgett travelled to Sydney to show their respect to the Freedom Riders.
It's just amazing to see how our community was to where we've come and how far we've come, and that's only been because of those students. So some of the legacy can now see that we have shops, we have places that we can go to. We don't have any segregation rules or areas that we can and can't go to.
The day inspiring Gary Williams for more action.
They've got to be open to truth-telling, something we know that people are talking up against, and still got to put it in their face.
A lifetime of fighting injustice. Felicity Ogilvie, NITV News.
Staying in Australia, trailblazers involved in that 1965 Freedom Ride were also recently honoured as the 60th anniversary commemorations continued across New South Wales. For the younger generations, it was an opportunity to learn about the movement as others reminisced about a pivotal moment in Australia's history. NITV's Dan Rennie reports.
The small town of Barraville in the Nambucca Valley. The next stop on the trail as the Freedom Ride commemorations continued.
Just waiting down there for them to start, you just had that expectancy, you know, and people were glad to see you and glad to see each other.
The local community, led by the Jarjums at the Central School, marched through the main street, which houses the theatre and the pub, places that were once segregated.
You have to be out of town by 6 o'clock.
An important stop for Uncle Gary Williams. This now iconic photograph breaking the racial divide.
People weren't allowed to enter the front bar, so I was volunteered to go into they called for volunteers and they said he'll do it. So yes, and the rest is history, of course.
The Freedom Riders were met with a barrage of hostility from non-Indigenous inhabitants of many of the towns along the way. However, the riders described the discrimination right here in Barraville as the worst that they encountered.
And there were some confrontations, but they were coming down to the hotel.
The white people, they were pretty angry with that movement in this town at the time.
The theatre today, a historic building. In 1965, it was a different story. Aboriginal people had to buy their tickets separately, enter the theatre by a separate side entrance, sit in seats that had views obstructed and could only do so after the program had begun. The now historic theatre was a stop-off on the 1965 Freedom Ride and the final stop for today's commemoration.
They were happy with that. They had all the cushion chairs up the top at the back of it. We had the old rickety chairs.
The commemoration, a further opportunity for learning.
I'm an old history teacher, and isn't it shameful that I never taught about it? You know, high school history teacher, I didn't know about it until I moved here.
It could be more highlighted, but with the way that people think today is really it's a legacy.
A legacy of bravery and resilience. Dan Rennie, NITV News.
Our T.R. Wheatley is up next with another edition of Mother Tongue Teachings. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. For the month of February, APTN brought you to the roots of Indigenous languages with a phrase of the day. T.R. Wheatley spoke with knowledge carrier and elder Patsy Paul Martin about a fundamental Mi'kmaq teaching.
Pwe, ni delwisi Patsy Paul Martin, akleawi wego begwitk. Hello, my name is Patsy Paul Martin, and I am from the Millbrook First Nations. I turned 70 years old, so I'm very proud to say that I'm an elder. I speak Mi'kmaq, and I read Mi'kmaq. I write Mi'kmaq. I'm the 12th child, the youngest child of my parents. We don't say enough of this word to each other. And I thought this would be great to have this word, which in Mi'kmaq means Gesalul. It's all one sound, Gesalul. In English, it means I love you. And the pronunciation is Ge Sal Ul. Mi'kmaq, it means Gesalul. English, it means I love you. The pronunciation of it is Ge Sal Ul. Well, in our Mi'kmaq society, it's something that we need to say a lot of to ourselves, to our children, to anybody that comes around us. It's a beautiful, positive word. I love it, and it's easy to say, easy to learn. English is my second language, and when I started going to school is when I learned it. And I went to Indian day school, and it was just, our language was always oral, because our ancestors didn't want to write it for fear of that our language being maybe taken or misused. So it was always oral. So you had to be a very good listener to listen to the elders when they were speaking. I want to say, Walalin, thank you for promoting our Mi'kmaq, our Mi'kmaq language. Gesalu is one word, very powerful and very loving.
Walalin, thank you, Elder Patsy. T.R. Wheatley also spoke with Grandma Geraldine Shingoose for another segment of Mother Tongue Teachings. Grandma Shingoose recently shared one of her favorite Anishinaabe phrases with T.R.
Geraldine Shingoose, Adishnakas. Wewe Ta Kwe, that's Northern Lights woman. Ishikashkweo is Sky woman. Makwa Nodam, I'm from the Barracan. The Tootnawe Shibing Treaty Reserve, Treaty 4 territory. I didn't know a word of English until like when we went into residential school. That's why I say people need to learn our language, like, you know, that roadway, Abadnochi Mikana. You know, it took me many years to learn English. It only takes them a little while to learn those two words. Abanochi Mikana, Abanochi Mikana, Children's Way. And the reason why I picked that was because I want to acknowledge that it's significant. The name change happened here in Winnipeg from Bishop Grandin to Abanochi Mikana. We need to continue to have that dialogue, like, you know, sharing our experience, and then also changing, like, you know, the system, trademarks, like names that committed genocide on our people. I learned from fluent speakers, Ojibwe, and they're teaching me. So yeah, so I'm still learning, and I'm gonna get it. It's still there. It's in me. I know it's there. There's free online classes. Go to ceremony, like, you know, you'll learn the songs. The songs are sung in our language. The language has energy. Like, you know, it's like you, I could understand, like, you know, what they're saying. Ojibwe and then also in Cree, because I lived up north. I know some of the words, the bad ones.
Chimi Gwitch, Grandma Shingoose. Thanks to everyone who contributed to Mother Tongue Teachings. To see those videos, check out our website at www.aptnnews.ca/Mother Tongue Teachings. And that's your special edition of APTN National News while our staff is away for part of the week. From all of us at APTN National News, hi miigwech masicho kwana. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back again soon. Ekose.